an oxygen-depleted ice metropolis where humans brave the cold for a golden dream. A modern Japanese village nestled between two active volcanic belts. Or 6 ancient monasteries floating atop giant sandstone pillars. Why does humanity turn places that reject life into homes? Do geographical limits truly exist? You will change your perspective on survival. While we sit in our warm rooms, complacent that the world map has been fully drawn, the planet out there is still quietly operating in ways that seem to defy all conventional logic of survival. There are spaces where rock, abyss, and extreme temperatures reject life, yet humans somehow still find a way. But at the remote edges of the map, there are coordinates operating under a completely different set of geological laws. Where earth and stone reject life, yet humans still quietly find a crevice to take root. Yet the world remains full of wonders, and each of these extraordinary spaces reflects a hidden corner of our own nature. Let us step into this journey to ask ourselves, how can these places truly be reality? Let us begin by looking deep into a peaceful valley in southern Europe where mountain rock and human life blend together in the strangest of ways. Listen to the steady sweep of a broom on the tiled floor of a small kitchen in southern Spain. That sound is entirely ordinary until you look up at the ceiling. Above the head of the woman cooking is not concrete or plaster. It is a 400,000-ton block of Cretaceous limestone, silently pressing down. In Setenil de las Bodegas, the boundary between a safe home and a catastrophic landslide is only a few centimeters apart. How can humans sleep peacefully, knowing that above their breath, millions of tons of ancient strata are being pulled down by gravity every single second? Is there an invisible compromise between that limestone structure and the tiny lives beneath it? Geological measurements confirm this natural stone vault has stood firm through millions of years of river erosion. The ancient Moors centuries ago did not blast the rock. They merely built vertical walls to seal the gaps beneath the cliff vault. The rock mass acts like a living entity. It breathes, keeping the temperature inside at a constant 15 degrees Celsius, even when the outside is the scorching heat of the Andalusian summer. But there is a truth that science rarely mentions. Microscopic groundwater veins still silently expand and contract within those stone fibers every freezing winter night. Living here is not about conquering nature. It is a humbling resting within the embrace of a giant entity in exchange for shelter, accepting that one's life depends entirely on the silence of the stone. The idea of clinging to rock for survival hints at a primal symbiotic relationship between humans and geology. But what happens when geographic space does not allow you to nestle so easily? When the land is squeezed between towering, sheer cliffs on one side and a violent churning river thick with silt on the other. In a deep valley in southwestern China, there is a city that has accepted a seemingly impossible game of survival. This place challenges all our conventional concepts of urban planning and living space. Viewers will wonder in awe how a crowded community can pack along a fragile thread on the edge of the abyss. Imagine a city where you have only 2 choices to move: go forward or go backward. You cannot turn left and you cannot turn right, because on one side is a sheer, towering cliff, and on the other is a churning flood of red silt. This is Yanjin, the world's narrowest urban strip, nestled deep within a canyon in Yunnan Province, China. At its narrowest point, this city of over 100,000 people is a mere 30 meters wide. How can a crowded community pack onto a fragile thread along the edge of the abyss without being swallowed by the raging river every year? Or what made them reject the vast plains, choosing instead to survive on a ruthless geological fracture? The answer lies in the foundations hidden beneath the fog. The high-rise buildings here do not cling to soil or sand. They stand on slender concrete pillars, driven deep into the hard bedrock of the riverbed to lift all of life above historic flood levels. From a distance, Yanjin looks like a multi-legged mechanical creature struggling to crawl along the cliff face. Yet, the silent erosion at the foot of those concrete pillars by the floodwaters over decades remains a variable that no engineer dares claim to fully control. Living in Yanjin is to accept an endless dialogue with the river. When night falls, The roar of the water beneath the floorboards reminds every resident the land they stand on is merely borrowed from nature. When the land's surface is squeezed to the extreme, humans choose to reach high into the sky. But what happens if even breathing on the surface becomes a torment? When the scorching heat of the desert turns every surface structure into a giant kiln, humans do not choose to run. They choose a completely opposite path, one that seems to exist only in science fiction. They decide to bury their entire lives deep beneath the red sand and dust, seeking safety in the heart of Mother Earth. For a strange underground world awaits us beneath the hot sands of the Australian continent. On the surface of the Australian outback, the landscape is so empty that your eyes have nowhere to rest. Only red dirt, hot wind howling relentlessly, and thousands of white pipes rising from the ground like nameless ancient graves. Not a single house, not a blade of grass. Yet, beneath that suffocating layer of dust and sand, a town of over 1,500 residents is quietly breathing. They have turned the dark earth into a sanctuary of life. Why would a community voluntarily give up the sky, give up the sunlight, to bury their lives in the eternal darkness of sandstone? Can a space without windows truly be called a home? Cooper Petey was born from the opal rush. To escape the 50°C heat that could boil one's spirit on the surface, the first miners realized a completely different world existed 10 meters underground. It is quiet, cool, and remains at 23 degrees year-round without any air conditioning technology. They carved bedrooms, kitchens, and even churches directly into the soft yet sturdy sandstone. Yet, darkness always comes with a price. The silent leakage of ancient toxic gas pockets accumulated deep within the rock veins remains an invisible dread for miners every time they set a new drill bit. Only when the dim candlelight illuminates the 1,000-year-old red sandstone patterns on bedroom walls do we truly understand. 2. Survive the harsh cruelty of the desert sky. Humans chose to return to Mother Earth, accepting a life of seclusion in the dark. For sinking deep into the earth shields humans from the desert's scorching heat. But sometimes the greatest challenge to survival is not temperature, but the absolute isolation of rugged terrain. Imagine a small village sitting alone atop a sheer cliff, completely cut off from the world by stone walls, hundreds of meters high. Without the help of modern machinery or governments, how can ordinary farmers save their own future? They achieved an extraordinary feat of carving through the mountain rock, carving out an escape with their own bleeding hands. There is a road not drawn by engineers or modern machinery. It is a rough, jagged gash hanging halfway up the sheer cliffs of the Taihang Mountains. Seen from afar, the rock openings looking out into the void resemble unhealed wounds of the mountain. For 13 men, for 5 long years, no explosives, no pneumatic drills, only 4-kilogram hammers and hand-forged steel chisels. How could a group of poor farmers, completely isolated from the modern world, manually carve through 1.2 kilometers of solid limestone without making a single fatal mistake in direction inside the heart of the mountain? What drove them into a mad mission where the chance of success was nearly zero? The isolation of Guoliang village atop the mountain was not just a geographical distance, it was a slow death sentence when medical emergencies could not descend the vertical cliff. 13 young men chose to face the ancient stone. The sandstone strata of the Taihang Mountains have horizontal veins, allowing them to use the weight of their hammers to split large slabs of rock if they followed the natural grain. Yet how they align their path through the mountain, using only the naked eye and the sound of striking stone, remains a mystery modern structural mathematics cannot fully explain. As the morning sun filters through the rough rock openings, illuminating the fossilized, blood-stained chisel marks on the tunnel walls, we realize this road does not just connect a village to the world. It is proof that when backed into a corner of survival, humans can carve their own name into the geological structure of the planet. The will of farmers can pierce through vertical cliffs to find a future. Yet, there are places on this planet where humans cling not to connect with a gentle world, but to face head-on the ruthless severity of altitude and toxins. Why do tens of thousands of people accept living in a town perched precariously on a glacier where the air is too thin to sustain a normal breath? The answer takes us to the most dangerous frontier of physical survival, where the line between greed and mortality becomes incredibly fragile under the freezing cold of the Andes. Rusting tin roofs crowd together at the foot of a massive, dirty glacier. In the freezing, biting mist, people move slowly like shadows, their breath instantly turning to ice in the thin air. Why do tens of thousands accept permanent settlement at an altitude of over 5,000 meters, where oxygen levels are only half of those at sea level? What keeps them in this place with no clean water system or law? The answer is gold. A bizarre mining system allows laborers to work unpaid for an entire month in exchange for a single day to freely take as much ore as they can carry. The desire to change their lives has transformed a harsh glacier into a bustling metropolis despite the brutal climate. Medicine still does not fully understand the human body's maximum tolerance limit for toxic mercury vapors from the gold refining process drifting in the air here. Watching a miner cherish a glittering piece of ore on the windswept peak. We understand that the body can adapt to the cold, but the soul struggles to heal from the wounds that greed inflicts on life. Greed and the hope of a new life can push humans to the freezing, breathless heights of the Andes. But sometimes, the struggle to cling on is not for glittering gold bars, but for a deep love of an ancient land that is quietly disintegrating into nothingness beneath their feet every day. Let us travel to a magnificent town standing alone on a self-destructing column of clay, where every resident knows their home is slowly disappearing into the endless abyss. The silent destruction of time and geology unfolds right before their eyes, casting a mysterious melancholy over this medieval space. An island of volcanic tuff suspended in a valley of eroded white clay ridges. The only road in is a fragile concrete bridge running straight into the mist. This is Civita di Bagnoregio, where time seems to have stopped in the Middle Ages, but geology has not. This place is known by a melancholy name, the Dying Town. Each year, the edge of the cliff crumbles into the abyss by a few centimeters, taking ancient wall fragments and petunia balconies down into the vast empty air. Why do the last remaining residents still refuse to leave, knowing their floors are slowly vanishing into the endless abyss beneath their feet every single day? What does it feel like to live in a home that is self-destructing? Civita's foundation is hard volcanic tuff, yet it rests on a soft layer of Pliocene clay, incredibly vulnerable to the erosion of rain and storms. Every heavy rain, the town's foundation dissolves a little more. Geologists have tried driving hundreds of steel piles deep into the mountain to anchor the structure, but it is merely a desperate effort to delay the inevitable. Living in Civita is to learn to accept impermanence. When night falls, the ancient bell tower silently casts its shadow under the moon, like a ship slowly sinking into the river of time. The beauty of Civita does not lie in its permanence, but in its very disappearance. A chilling reminder that even the strongest human castles are but sand castles before the breath of the earth. The slow disintegration of Civita evokes a deep melancholy about the impermanence of all things. But in another corner of the world, deep within a Himalayan canyon, a structure of mud and wood has clung to the cliff face for 800 years, standing as a symbol of the ultimate spiritual resolve. How could a sacred beehive take root in a place so entirely isolated from civilization for so long? We are about to touch a pure beauty that seems to reject humanity, a sanctuary where faith seeks absolute silence amidst harsh nature. Deep inside the Zanskar Gorge of the Himalayas, at an altitude of nearly 4,000 meters, a structure of mud and wood clings to the mouth of a natural cave. It looks like a giant, fossilized beehive protruding from the gray cliff. This is Phugtol Monastery, where even a footstep becomes too loud. How can a monastery stand firm for 800 years on a sheer cliff, completely isolated from the modern world? Or what guided the first monks to find this solitary crevice to build their faith? The secret lies in an underground spring flowing from deep inside the stone cave behind the monastery. This spring never runs dry, even in the harshest winters when all surrounding rivers freeze to ice. Perchd's architecture is a perfect combination of mud, straw, and native willow branches, ultra-light materials that create a highly resilient structural system, helping the monastery survive the violent earthquakes of the Himalayan fault line. Yet the true geological origin of the fresh water flowing from this unimaginable altitude remains a mystery beyond the reach of modern hydrological models. As the morning prayer horns sound, blending with the wind howling through the deep canyon, all boundaries between religion and geology dissolve. Here, faith is not an abstract concept, it is mixed with mud, rested on stone, and drinks the water flowing from the heart of the mountain. The spiritual stillness reigning over the Himalayan cliffs brings a sense of deep peace. But as we cross into the next frontier, that peace is directly challenged by the heat rising from the earth and the constant threat of an active volcano. We begin to enter spaces that break humanity's conventional perception of reality. How can humanity view an active volcano as their beloved home? Is there any greater madness than choosing to live inside a giant geological heat trap? A round island rising from the vast, deep blue Pacific. Seen from above, the island resembles a giant bowl holding a smaller bowl inside, blanketed in lush green vegetation. Yet beneath that peaceful green is a volcano still silently active. Why would humans decide to build homes and live right inside the crater of a geological time bomb that could detonate at any moment? What makes them choose to live with deadly peril every day? The answer lies in the gift of the volcano. Fertile soil allows them to cultivate unique agricultural products, and abundant geothermal energy provides warmth and free hot water for the entire modern village. Residents have developed a highly sophisticated helicopter evacuation and early warning system to protect themselves. Even so, the actual destructive force of the next major eruption remains an unknown beyond human control. Watching people gather to steam food with vapors rising from the ground beneath a night sky of 1,000 stars, we realize that absolute safety is only an illusion. The most fulfilling life is when we learn to respect and live in harmony with the violent forces of nature. Living in peace with a volcano requires courage and the Japanese philosophy of respecting all things. But when the threat comes not from geothermal heat or magma, but from the suffocating confinement of a living space squeezed amidst a vast ocean, humans must face the most profound existential equation of survival. Let us visit the most densely populated island on the planet, where the boundary between one home and the next completely vanishes under rusting iron roofs. A miniature metropolis packed onto a solitary rocky strip in the heart of a deep African lake awaits us, challenging every definition of humanity's minimal living space. Look at this tiny rock rising from the middle of this vast freshwater lake. It resembles a giant turtle clad in armor made of shimmering, rusty silver tin sheets. That armor leaves not a single square centimeter of open ground for vegetation or sunlight to touch the soil. Why does a rocky island only half the size of a football field become the suffocating, crowded home of over 500 people in cramped tin rooms? How can they sustain daily life in a space squeezed to such an extreme limit? The answer lies in the lucrative livelihood beneath the deep waters. The waters surrounding the island are a rich source of Nile perch with extremely high export value to Europe, attracting fishermen to venture out to save on fuel and travel costs. The island has become the focal point of a fierce sovereignty dispute between two nations, leading to two police stations operating together on this tiny piece of land. The ability of this community to self-maintain social order in the complete absence of waste management and clean water systems remains a major unknown to science. As night falls, hundreds of kerosene lamps from fishing boats light up around the island, turning it into a shimmering hive of light in the dark. We realize that humans are willing to give up the most basic privacy for family responsibility and the hope of a better future for their children. The suffocating congestion of Migingo exposes the harsh reality of human livelihood under the pressure of making a living. But when we look for an absolute symbol of transcendence, humans are no longer suffocated by cramped ground or deep oceans. Instead, Reaching straight up into the blue sky to touch the peak of wonder, a sanctuary hangs in the air, awaiting us. This is the peak of grandeur, where faith rises above the harshest physical barriers. How can ancient stone castles stand in perfect balance on the peaks of sharp, sheer stone pillars in a valley of misty clouds? Gigantic dark gray sandstone pillars reach straight into the blue sky like the fingers of giants. Atop the sharp peak of each absurdly balanced stone pillar sits an ancient monastery with a vibrant red-tiled roof, suspended amidst drifting bands of white clouds. How could 14th century monks transport tens of thousands of tons of stone and materials to the summits of these steep stone pillars when no path leading up yet existed? What gave them the strength to construct these gravity-defying structures? To escape the brutal persecution of invaders, the monks climbed the cliffs with their bare hands, rigging temporary rope ladders and hauling materials up with hand-turned pulleys for decades. The sedimentary deposition of an ancient river 60 million years ago, combined with tectonic faulting, created these magnificent stone pillars. Yet, the precise structural calculations used by ancient monks to transport heavy materials to the sharp peaks without modern equipment remain a historical secret, still not fully answered. The evening bell echoes through the vast stone valley, blending with the wings of eagles, soaring freely in the wide space beneath the monastery. In that moment, we realize that human faith and the desire for freedom can turn the most dangerous cliffs into stairways to the heavens. The physical limits of the earth are only temporary before an absolutely free mind. 10 coordinates. 10 silent negotiations between humanity and geology. As we return to the safety of our sturdy rooms, the world out there is still operating. Limestone is still pressing down in Sentinel, the flood river is still eroding the foundation pillars in Yenjin, and the monasteries of Meteora are still suspended amidst the clouds. Those people on the remote edges remind us of a forgotten truth. Humanity has never needed a perfect planet to survive. We only need a small geological crevice to take root, a little hope to build walls, and a faith large enough to call the harshest place home. Perhaps, the only boundary that truly exists on this earth is not those cliffs or abysses, but the limit we place within our own minds on what is possible.